how it got so dark so soon during the winters in Ponyville. When she was just a filly, she would be driven crazy by how fast the day would change to night. Even though the clocks would stay would say otherwise, she used to love the snow. She loved how it would make everything look so pretty, like a cold extension of her coat. Reach out and cover the rest of the world. Long ago, as she was looking out one of the windows of Mrs. Cheerley's class, she made a promise to the frozen specks of her coat dancing in the wind. She promised that when she was old enough to not have to go to school, to not have to go inside when it got dark out, and old enough that she didn't have to follow other ponies' rules, that she would always find time to go out and enjoy the wonders of winter. God, I hope this isn't mostly narration. But times changed and ponies changed with them. As Sweetie Belle leaned up against the counter of the Carousel Boutique, she remembered the promise that she had made to the snow outside the window. And when she had broken it, it was simple time back then, before post-secondary education, before she understood why she needed money, before her cutie mark, before a lot of things. It would have probably brought her younger self to tears to know that she had earned the freedom to go out in the snow as she pleased, that she would choose to stay inside instead. Go away, kitty. As the arms of the clock above the door of the shop ticked their way to a full circle, Sweetie Belle could not help herself but to think of it closing up the lonely shop and spending a night with no pony but a bag of chocolate-covered pretzels, yum, a gossip magazine, and her sister's Sapphire Shores albums. The hypnotic clicking of the clock began to put her into a trance. As she imagined her nearing freedom to the absolutely nothing, her head became heavy in her hooves. Her drooping eyelids hung partly open like a lovesick school filly. She even began to lick around the metal of her braces, trying to still a salvage taste of imaginary chocolate. The bell chimed above the door. Sweetie Belle jolted awake, trying to stand while at the same time trying to regain her balance, but succeeded in only dropping her head into the counter before scrambling beside the register. She was about to greet the new arrivals, but her recollection of ponies standing at the door turned the words from
"Welcome to the Carousel Boutique."
to
"Hi, Miss Cheerly."
Cherry, now with a considerable girth to her midriff, entered into the store with a small pony filly close to her side.
Hello, Sweetie Belle. It's good to see you.
She said before hanging the scarves of both her and the pony with her onto a hat rack. Sweetie Belle stepped around the counter to meet her old teacher and asked,
What brings you here tonight, Miss Cheerly? I was trying on my dress for my sister's wedding, and as you can see...
She pointed at her swelled midsection.
I need to have some alterations done. I don't suppose Rarity's in tonight, is she?
Sweetie Belle was about to answer when her old teacher looked at the door and called,
Big Mac, are you coming in or what?
Within moments, an echoing response of
"Yep"
came from outside the door, and a large red stallion with a garment bag draped across his shoulders galloped inside. Galloped inside and closed the door behind him.
Rarity happens to be out of town on business,
Sweetie Belle said.
She left earlier, but now that I think of it, she did tell me you might be coming in. Fluttershy will be in tomorrow, but since you're here, why don't you step in the back and I can take measurements so you don't have to come back tomorrow. Would that work, Miss Cheerly? That sounds fine.
The brooding mare said, taking the garment bag off of Big Mac's shoulders and heading for the back fitting rooms. She passed by the counter and gave a look at her past student and whispered,
Oh, dear, it's Mrs. Cheerly now.
Sweetie Belle blushed and said,
Sorry. Old habits, you know?
While his wife made her way to the back of the store, Big Mac did what any responsible husband would do in this situation, sat down at a bench on the far wall of the store. He sat the foal beside him on the bench, becoming an unobtrusive and
Unobtrusive and inconspicuous as possible.
inconspicuous as impossible. As Sweetie Belle waited for Cheerily, she took the time to gather pins and measuring tapes in order to instruct the store's other tailor on what the client wanted. After giving what she would have guessed was enough time, Sweetie Belle headed towards the private rooms of the store. But before she did, her eyes wandered over Big Mac and his accomplice sitting on a bench. The fool was being good, sitting silently and being very well behaved. But there was something about her that struck a chord deep inside the recesses of Sweetie Belle's mind. Like a long-lost memory of sitting in the store for an eternity waiting for the adults to finish their business with nothing to pass the time. Without a second thought, Sweetie Belle turned around and walked back to the desk with the register and opened the cash drawer and a cabinet underneath it. Quickly, Sweetie Belle crept up to the earth pony and set a piece of paper with holes punched in it and a plastic needle with yellow string on the seat beside her.
Do you want to do some sewing?
She asked. The pony looked up at her, waiting to make sure that she was still the one being spoken to, and when sure of it, she nodded. The instructions of the paper were simply just the number of steps to follow the needle through to make the outline of a dress for a printed pony. But to the filly on the bench, she may not have comprehended it, yet at the same time, Sweetie Belle didn't care as long as she had something to do. Next to the sewing supplies, Sweetie Belle set down a small golden coin, and although it was to the foal, was more directed towards the pony beside her, said,
And if you get hungry, we have a little candy machine in the corner. If that's okay.
Big Mac looked down at the two and said,
Yep.
I think that's like the only lines you have in this.
I'm okay with this.
It usually is.
With all the approval she needed, the little pony jumped off the bench and galloped, coin in mouth, to the small red counting machine and put it in. With that taken care of, Sweetie Belle retrieved the measuring supplies and made her way towards the back room to measure her old teacher. But as she opened the door, she heard the bell chime once more, and she expected there was a pony standing in the doorway. She looked at the clock above the door, and sure enough, they were still open for 10 minutes. Hopefully it was nothing, just a question or a simple sale that she could do and then finish her old teacher and close up for the night. Otherwise, she was just going to have to turn them away until tomorrow. She took a quick breath, smiled, and said,
Welcome to the Carousel Boutique. How can I help you?
The son had entered, marched over to the desk, and threw a package into the counter and barked,
I need a lot of help.
Oh, cool, there was a part for you. It was at that moment that Sweetie Belle realized that it was going to be one of those customers. She felt the urge to roll her eyes, but her sister's strict training halted the urge. Sweetie Belle returned to her spot beside the cashier and said,
Oh, that's too bad. What's the matter?
Well, I got my wife a present from here.
He slapped a paper receipt onto the table. Sweetie Belle glanced down and saw that it was from the store. She didn't really mind to see what it was or when it was purchased, because all she cared about was averting the problem for now.
And when she washed it, it shrunk. Now, my wife's crying home, and you need to fix this right now.
Sure, your wife didn't get fat.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Sweetie Belle said. She reached in the drawer for a pen and sticky note and brought it up to the countertop.
But we're closing in 10 minutes, and the tailor isn't going to be in until tomorrow.
Either Sweetie Belle hadn't given the new arrival a close enough look, or his mood had just gone from bad to worse, but at this time it looked as if it had gone absolutely livid. The skin underneath his fur, possibly a little flustered from biting the cold, had gone as red as a tomato, and the veins of his neck began to bulge out from his coat.
No, that's unacceptable. I want it done now.
I'm sorry, sir. I'm not allowed to do that.
Well, what are you good for then?
He spat. Granted, Sweetie Belle could understand how her reason sounded like an excuse, but this was the truth. Rarity and Fluttershy were the best seamstresses in Ponyville. While the former would be available at most times of the day, this happened to be a rare occasion. Fluttershy, on the other hand, only worked part-time and helped with normal orders when Rarity was either preoccupied or overwhelmed. Either way, Sweetie Belle wasn't a tailor, and a quick reflection on Cutie Mark crusading would remind her of her ventures in sewing.
I just work part-time to help with checkout and errands.
What are they here for then?
Sorry. Yes, in tone that was meant to patronize her.
Measurements.
She answered in an equally condescending deadpan. The customer spoke again, keeping his angered disposition and poison-laced words to ridicule the teen. But Sweetie Belle had tuned him out. Not because she wanted to, even though, if given the choice, she would have just ignored him and let the fire of his little tantrum burn off his little wrath, but because in the corner of her eye, Sweetie Belle noticed Mrs. Cheerily had tiptoed back into the storefront, only half her girding on, and hurriedly ushered the little pony with her into the back. Sweetie Belle watched them until they closed the door to shield them from the hospitable temperament, before she returned her focus to the customer.
So I'll come back tomorrow, but I want this fixed and I want my money back.
Oh, great. What did I miss?
Sweetie Belle asked herself, sighing the memory of her sister's return policy. She took what she had pieced together based on what she had heard and asked.
When did you buy the dress for your spouse, sir?
4 months ago.
Sweetie Belle internally rolled her eyes.
Great.
She thought,
Sorry, but that's past the return policy. Either way, we'll see what we can do about this inconvenience. But that's against the store policy.
That's a bunch of bull. I know about how you work. I know a pony who used to work for a rinky-dinky joint like this. All you do is try to sell any piece of crap to make a quick coin. I sold it to my friend, and he said that this was a piece of junk, and you knew it.
either from the blanket, utterly stupid claim that a local tailor would try to rob his clients, or the anecdotal, impossible imaginary friend who could deduce that the work from hoofs of a tailor, that service royalty and celebrities alike was trash. Sweetie Belle couldn't help but roll her eyes. But as she momentarily dwelled on it, the statement dug deep into her nerves. She knew that the abuse of the word "you" was a generalization because she wasn't allowed to even touch a project until it was to a client's liking. But there was something about it that finally struck. The disappointment was so intent to make her the cause of the problem that it had finally compromised her emotions. This was what Rarity had always warned her about, but her sister had wished that she never had to experience. The one thing that no pony could prepare for. She was alone. She was in the midst of the most dangerous customer interaction of all of them all, damage control.
Sir, I assure you that.
I want your manager, I want your seamstress, and I want the owner right now.
As I've already said, that's not possible. Our owner is out of town and won't be back until...
You better make it happen. This is unacceptable. I don't care about your policy, because your policy is a sham. No refunds? What a joke. Do you like getting ripped off like this?
Eh,
Either I get a refund or I'm going to tell every pony that this place is just another rip-off joint. You got that?
yes, but
Now I can tell you're not just saying to be a yes pony, but this is a bunch of crap and I won't stand for this.
Gus, stop interrupting me.
Sweetie Belle thought.
Yes, sir, but I'm trying to say.
I wasn't finished. You shut up when I'm talking to you.
Is that me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sir.
The sudden boom from between the two made Sweetie Belle jump. She regained her position, but it was at that moment that she realized that her eyes were burning and she felt as she was about to cry. Once upon a time, she did have a hair-trigger cry reflex, but she thought that she had grown out of it. She wiped her hoof across her face and realized that she had been sweating so much that her makeup was bleeding into her eyes. What shocked her even more as she looked at her makeup-stained hoof was that she was shaking and she couldn't seem to stop it. Sorry. Sweetie Belle heard her late arrival shout again. This time she was only getting indirect effect of the blast. She turned her head and she didn't know how. She hadn't noticed it before, but Big Mac was standing at the counter. He stood with his legs locked straight and his neck tall and erect, using his presence to tower the unruly entrant like a mountain. Yet at the same time spoke with such a gracefully calm tone that would only be described as a whale gliding through the old ocean depths.
Sir, you need to leave. Now.
What? No, shut up. This is none of your business.
No, it became my business when you started wasting my time.
Well, this came before you, so go sit in the corner and wait.
She did all she could do for you. Now it's time to leave.
No, don't try to come to her rescue. This doesn't apply to you.
Big Mac stepped forward again, looking straight down the pony who he had challenged while making him crane his neck up.
This applied to me when you came in here and got between me and my pregnant wife from getting home in a snowstorm. Now, unless you can behave yourself and say something civil to the young lady, then it's time to go.
Either back off or let's take this outside and settle this like stallions.
I'm guessing that's Sweetie Belle.
Whoa! Calm down now.
A crack filled the castle boutique as the stallion socked the former farmer right in the mouth. The big red stallion recoiled back from the blow as his attacker shouted.
Don't fucking tell me what to do.
Okay, one sec. My headphones are going dead. I gotta plug them in. What? They're wireless.
Why did I have to become the bad guy here?
I don't know. You make a good bad guy. Where are they?
To be honest, if I were a Big Mac there, I would tell him to piss off, actually.
You're totally shitting me. Every time I need something, it goes missing. Okay, I'll just have to switch headphones when these go dead. Anyway, good to see you. Okay. Sweetie Belle dove for the corner behind the counter before crying out a yelp so high that her voice cracked. Well, the professional thing to do at this moment would be to try to get between the two and prevent the engagement from further escalating to an all-out brawl. Sweetie Belle couldn't help but cower underneath the desk with her hooves over her head as she was practicing a tornado drill. Hidden like a turtle in its shell, Sweetie Belle was trembling before the forces of fate with her eyes tightly closed and hoping that somehow Celestia descend from Camelot and save her. Blinded by cowardice and bound to the spot by fear, she couldn't see what happened next. Though it wasn't that she wanted to, but it didn't mean she couldn't hear it. Although she would rather choose ignorance, Sweetie Belle was forced to listen to a heavy breathing, heaving like some pony's chest was being used like an old accordion. Then she heard the sound of elastic stretching against the countertop, like that of the customer's garment bag being dragged off the desk, a scraping of hooves against the tile floor, and then the bell above the door rang once more. Then there was silence, like the quiet that quiet that lived inside the eye of the hurricane. Time seemed to stop inside their tiny corner of the world. Sweetie Belle managed to muster forth enough courage to open her eyes, and slowly began to peek over the edge of the counter, where she had been standing apparently. She hadn't seen sorry. She hadn't been the She hadn't been the only one to have been affected by the tussle within the store, for she could hear the door to the changing room creak open, and Mrs. Cheerily poking her head out to see what happened. And the bell rang again, and Sweetie Belle looked towards the door to see Big Mac enter once more. Besides the entrance to the Carousel Boutique was a small garbage receptacle, and while Big Mac was standing in the doorway, he used his mouth to take the garbage bag out of the container, tied it up, and threw it outside, landing firmly in a nearly snowbank, next to a garment bag and a pony who had his head plowed in the snow. Truly stepped out of the room, both etched upon her features, standing in the middle of the store. She asked,
Big Mac, is everything all right?
Sweetie Belle stepped out from behind the desk, still with an uncontrollable shaking from before, but now being able to comprehend what had happened. Out of all things that had happened within the last 20 minutes inside the store, the only thing that happened to stick out in her mind at that moment was the empty trash can beside the door. So to break the silence, she said,
Thanks for taking out the trash, Big Mac.
The rest and walked back to the bench that they had sitting at before, turned around and planted his bottom back into his seat. He looked over at Sweetie Belle, the friend of his full sister, the pony who had given his own full a sewing paper and a bit for a candy, and had her eyeliner bleeding the crevices around her eyes as she spoke to him. In a strangely comforting way, he smiled in an unusually hollow and aloof way that he would often do, nodded his head, and said,
Yup.
Arthur note. This story is dedicated to anyone who had to work retail, customer service, waiting for rating, or customer relations in their life.